Hi everyone. Well, as you can kind of see, yay! This isn't going to be the prettiest background or anything, but Jackson is here! He's in chill mode right now. But I decided to take this opportunity to tell my labor and delivery story. I've written it down in his journal and everything, but I wanted to get something out on video as well, just because I've noticed that as the weeks are going by, it's sort of becoming less and less in my memory, and I just want to talk about it before it's pretty much gone. They say that, by the time you're ready to have your next kid, you don't even remember how painful labor was and everything like that, and at first I was like, that is not possible, because it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. But as time is going on, I'm starting to feel like, oh, I could probably do it again, and I'm starting to forget all the intensity of the pain and how everything went, but not completely yet. So Jackson was born on November 15th at 3:01 a.m. and he was 8 pounds and he was 20 inches long. And I remember on November 14th having a feeling that it was coming very soon. My doctor gave me the due date of November 18th, just based on like how he looked in my womb and everything like that, and his measurements and things like that. I knew what Jackson's date of conception was, so I always said November 15th, that was the day that he was going to be here. That would be his 40 weeks right on, because that was exactly 40 weeks from his date of conception, which was, bless you, which was my birthday. So November 14th, I don't want to say like knew, but I had a feeling that it was going to be really, really close. I don't know if it was instinct, but just that day I got up and Kenny slept in, and usually I would kind of hang out and sleep in with him or just hang out around the house. I woke up just needing to get out of the house. I was like, I'm walking this baby out. I am gonna, I'm gonna do everything I can to get this baby out. I'm so ready. As you, obviously, if you follow my channel, you see that I really didn't stay up with all of my countdown to Jackson videos and everything like that. And that's mostly just because I was miserable toward the end of my pregnancy. I was by myself. As you guys probably know, Kenny worked. He's working out of town this week too, but I don't think he's going to be doing that anymore. But he worked out of town, so I spent during the week I was by myself, and he would come home for a couple days on the weekends. So I was lonely, I was hormonal, I was starting to feel a little bit depressed about just being so big and being so uncomfortable, and just the weight was becoming unbearable. Like, the anticipation was getting to the point where I spent all day every day thinking about Jackson and what he would look like, and just what delivery was going to be like, how everything was going to go down. And I just felt like every day was dragging on forever. So I really didn't do my countdown videos anymore. I went in it thinking I could, but I didn't. Anyway, back to November 14th. I ended up getting dressed and going over to a shopping center near my house. I went and got some coffee. I bought a new lipstick. I got a manicure and a pedicure. I walked for like 4 hours all around that complex. There's like a Michael's. I went to a shoe store that's over there. I went to World Market, Target, Old Navy. I bought a shirt at Old Navy, which was supposed to be a maternity shirt, which I never ended up wearing as a maternity shirt. But I was looking at baby clothes. I just walked forever, and I finally came home, and Kenny wasn't here. He was out. He meant to go out and hit some golf balls. I remember we were arguing about what we should do, not arguing, but discussing what should we do for dinner, if we should have spaghetti or manwich, and I wasn't that hungry. I wasn't feeling that good from walking all day. So he put some Easy Mac in the microwave. I decided to boil Jackson's pacifiers, so I boiled those, and just as I was putting those away and turning around to wash my hands, I felt a really sudden in my pelvis, and suddenly I just felt warm liquid dripping down my legs, and I realized that my water had just broken, and it felt really intense from that point on. Like, shit just got real. Sorry for my language. Sorry, Jackson. But that's how it felt. My water broke, and I just remember turning to Kenny, who was sitting in the living room, and saying, Kenny, my water just broke. And he immediately shot up, and, I mean, it took him a second to sort of, like, gauge what was going on. He shot up, started getting dressed, like, asking, should we go to the hospital? I started calling the doctor, asking, should I come in, because I wasn't having any contractions yet. So I was asking if I should come in. Doctor said, definitely come into the hospital. And so I jumped in the shower, rinsed everything off really quick, which was pointless because I just kept dripping all over everything until I had a baby in my arms. Went to the hospital, or grabbed our bags, grabbed everything, drove over to the hospital. I still hadn't had any contractions. Well, I started having some tightness, but nothing painful quite yet. Are you watching, Mommy? Nothing painful quite yet. Until we got actually to the hospital. They checked me in. I was immediately put into a labor and delivery room by myself. Thankfully, the place that I gave birth at, you had your own room, so that made life a lot easier. Then I started feeling the pain, and it's a pain that it's undescribable. It really is the most pain I've ever been in my entire life. And I actually, what are you doing, dude? I actually did get to a point where I was saying, there's no way I can do this. I just remember looking at Kenny and going, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to do this. There's no way. I labored for about 3 hours, and it was awful. As soon as they asked me if I wanted an epidural, I immediately took it. I don't even know how to describe the pain. Everyone says it's like really, really strong menstrual cramps, but I felt them. You feel them all over your stomach, but mine, a lot of it, I felt really low. But it's like, the way I kind of can describe it is, it's like someone pumping a balloon, like a really thick, like a beach ball in your stomach, just pumping it up, pumping it up, pumping it up until it feels like you can't fit any more air in you, like you just can't fit any more. And then all of a sudden it just, you're to the point where you're like, you feel like you're going to break in half, and then it just starts to release. But the worst part, I think, I mean, the pain was horrible, but you can feel them start to come on. Like, you can feel your muscles slowly starting to tighten, and it's so scary because you're like, oh my, I was literally like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. Just as they would start to come, I would be like, no, 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 and then it just pumps up, pumps up, pumps up, pumps up. Oh, I can't take it, I can't take it. And you have to sit there, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, 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 okay. Like, I made it through another one. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy feeling. There were times when I felt like I couldn't do it, and then there were times where I was like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Kenny said that, I mean, I don't even remember this really, but he said that I was like, you have this, you got this, you can do this, you can do, like, I was pumping myself on. I don't even remember that. But as soon as they said you can have an epidural, I got an epidural. There's no way. You natural birth mothers, I don't know how you can do it. I honestly, there's no way I could do it. It's too painful. I'm glad I got to go through the pain and experience what it felt like, but it sucks. What I will say, though, is the epidural is not painful at all. I was mortified of the epidural. I was like shaking. They basically just gave me a pillow, had me lean over, held onto my pillow. They did some stuff on my back. They put some, like, not antibiotic, I guess antibiotic or anti-infection or whatever, stuff on your back. And then everyone says that it's like painful, like, because they're sticking a needle in your spine and all this stuff. It did not hurt at all. I mean, at least for me, I'm just going to say I wouldn't be scared of the epidural because It really just felt like when they take blood or when they give you a flu shot. It's just a prick. I had like a quick kind of involuntary spasm, but nothing that hurt. It was just kind of like a weird like, ugh! And then I felt fine. Like they start to disperse the antibiotic. I think it takes like 20 minutes or not even that. I don't think it was even that long. That starts to go in, and then you feel numb, but I remember I could still move my feet and everything. It just felt tingly. You just can't feel the contractions. You can feel something happening, like a tightening feeling, but you don't feel the pain, which was, at that point I was able to like lay down. I mean, they make you lay on your side or kind of lay in different positions. They come in like every 20 minutes or something, and then they switch you around because I guess movement helps the drug to work or whatever. By that point I was like, I didn't even remember what was going on. I do remember that I was feeling very hot. And this was specific to me, I found out later. I started feeling really warm. Like my face felt warm. I remember first asking my mom or asking Kenny for just a damp rag, and I kind of was patting it on my face. And I would put it on my face, and as soon as it got on there, it would warm up completely, and I would have to ask my mom or Kenny, those were the two people that were in the room with me, to get me another one. Then I was asking for ice packs, and then it got to the point where they were checking my temperature, and my temperature kept rising and rising and rising, and they couldn't get it down. By a certain point, they had ice packs all over my face, they had ice packs under my arms. It was basically just all packed on ice, and my fever wasn't going down. Come to find out, I got some kind of infection, and they were looking at my urine, and not only did I not have a lot of urine coming out for being, there for 7 hours, my urine was really dark. It looked like tea. So the nurses were getting concerned, and I was just kind of laying there hot and miserable. I wasn't in the pain from the contractions, but I felt sick. I didn't feel good at all. I felt more intensity from the nurses. They kept coming in and saying, man, he really doesn't like these contractions, saying little things that, I guess, not to worry me, in a way not to worry me, but still they sounded concerned. At one point toward getting near to my delivery, I was having a contraction, and one of the nurses rushed in and started grabbing me and just quickly yanked me and started rubbing Jackson around and sort of twisting him around, and had me on my side and was saying, okay, get through this, and okay. And then as the contraction was ending, they said, okay, we got him through it, and I guess Jackson's heart rate was dropping like rapidly when I was having contractions. He was really wedged down in my birth canal, and he just wasn't doing so good. So doctors started coming in. There was a doctor that came in, a bunch of nurses. They started drawing my blood. They started moving very, very rapidly and informed me that I would be having an emergency C-section because Jackson wasn't doing so well, and neither was I. I had started becoming septic, and my fever was really bad. I had a bad infection, so they said that they had to get Jackson out immediately. And as soon as they said that, and as soon as I signed the form, mind you, I don't even hardly remember signing the form. I was terrified. They said that they were certain that Jackson was going to get out just fine, but they weren't too sure about Mom, which is me. They were worried about me being okay. And as for me, I just wanted Jackson to be okay. So they signed the form, and from that point on, it was very fast. I remember looking at my mom, and I remember crying because I was really scared. I just kept thinking, what if something happens to me and I don't get to see my son? I just wanted to see his face, even if just for a second, if something happened to me, I just wanted to see his face. And I kept thinking that I didn't write enough in his journal. If something happened to me, how was he going to know me? I was scared. I was really scared that something was wrong and that I wasn't going to be able to make it and I was shaking like a leaf. They immediately, I mean, by the time I signed that paper, I was in there in like 10 minutes on the operating table. I remember saying goodbye to my mom, and I remember watching Kenny get into the scrubs. I remember being on the operating table. I remember Kenny was standing on my right, and I could see him. He was trying to comfort me. I was just really scared. I kept kind of wanting to know what was going on, but not wanting to know. They pumped me with more anesthesia, or with, not anesthesia, with like numbing stuff, because from like my chest down I couldn't feel anything. I could feel them moving me around. It's a weird sensation because my body was moving around because they were doing stuff to me, but I couldn't feel anything. When they finally pulled Jackson out, I did feel like kind of a light feeling. I was looking at Kenny the whole time, and I remember looking at him, and the look on his face just changed when they were pulling Jackson out. I remember he just had like this deer in headlights look in his eyes, and his hand, like he was slowly bringing his hand to his, like, I don't think he even realized what was going on. And then I heard the most beautiful sound in the world, which was this little guy, and he made a quick little moan, which was just sort of like a and then he started crying. And then from that moment on, it was just it's something that I don't even know how to explain. I was a mom, and to hear his cry, and to hear his voice, and to hear that he's a real living, breathing, crying person, just like that cry. Hi, baby. It was the most intense feeling I've ever had in my life, and I don't think anyone could ever explain what it feels like to become a mom. The sound of his voice felt so intense that, I don't know, it's just more emotion than I could ever explain to someone, and more joy. And I don't know, it's just the most amazing feeling to hear him crying. And I sat there. Kenny immediately went over and cut the cord and everything, and I just sat there scared, listening to them saying they, they need to get mommy's vitals up, hang in there, mom, don't, stay with us, and basically saying all these encouraging things that, they're supposed to be encouraging, but they kind of scared me more. I just kept telling myself to be strong, to not go into the light. I mean, I was literally like trying to will myself to not to have anything, not to go. I wanted to stay with my son, especially after I heard him. There's no way that I was leaving him. After they went and they cleaned him up and they swaddled him, they brought him over to me, and I could see his face, and they basically just put him right up into my face, and I kissed him and kissed him and kissed him and kissed him until they took him away, until I couldn't kiss him anymore. And then I tried to get last kisses. He just looked perfect. Everything about him was better than anything in my dreams. I still think so. After they took him away, they took him to the NICU because he had a fever, and they wanted to get some antibiotics through him, so they ran an IV, and Kenny went with him, and I stayed back by myself. And they closed me up, and they, were basically saying that they just have to watch me for an hour, make sure that my liver starts functioning properly again. And so they took me to recovery, and my nurse, Rosemary, who's, I'm convinced, is one of the women that saved my life, and Jackson's, she stayed in there with me and monitored me, and basically said that I need to get some good pee out, and that it needs to start looking better, because iced tea looking pee is not good. So I stayed in there, and she just kept saying, stay with me, don't go, don't close your eyes, just hang in there, we'll start wiggling our toes, and we'll start moving around, just stay with me. And I just started getting better and better, I guess. I really didn't know. I just was sitting there willing myself to wiggle my toes and to not let anything happen to me, because I was a mom, and I was going to be a mom, and he was going to know me, and I was going to get to see him grow up no matter what. So my mom and Kenny came in while I was recovering, and they brought me pictures of him, and I just sat there. I remember sitting there, and I had my mom's phone, and I was just sitting there staring and staring and staring and staring at his pictures. And I couldn't wait to see him. After about an hour, she said that all my vitals were getting better and that I looked good, and I would get to go into my recovery room up back in the birth center area. So I was elated. At that point, I knew everything was going to be okay. Some of the pressure came off. The only hard part was just not being able to hold my son. They did wheel me into the NICU, and I got to go and I got to see him. They rolled my bed up next to his little incubator area, and I just put my arms over, and I had his little Soothie. He had his little Soothie pacifier in his mouth, and I just put my finger in it and was just feeling his gums pushing down on my fingers, and I just told him I loved him, and I told him he was perfect, and there was nothing else in the world like him, and he was very special, and I just kept telling him I love him until they basically made me go up into recovery. And from that point, I had about 12 hours before I was able to hold him, and they said get some sleep and all this stuff, and there was just no way that I was going to sleep. I stayed awake the entire time. I just counted down the hours until they let me go down and hold him. I was pumping the colostrum so that Kenny could take it down to him, because Kenny kept going down and visiting him as much as he could, and got to hold him and everything before I did, which as long as he had mommy or daddy with him is fine with me. After my 12 hours, they finally got me up and had me start walking, and that was a really weird feeling. You know, after a C-section, if any of you have had a C-section, you know that your insides feel kind of mushy and they just feel kind of weird, and so walking is a little bit hard afterward, but got up. As soon as I stood up, I bled everywhere. It was really intense. I still had a catheter in, so after they got me walking, I rolled down in a wheelchair. My mom was pushing me, or no, Kenny was pushing me. My mom was holding my pee bag and my, IV rack and everything, and I was rolling down there, and that's when I finally got to hold him for the first time, and I just put him in my little hospital gown up next to me, and that just felt like the most right thing in the whole world to have my son right up against me, and it just felt so good. And we started learning how to breastfeed, and from that moment on, the whole time I was in the hospital, every chance I had, I was down in that NICU with Jackson, and I would literally go down there, feed him. He would fall asleep. The nurse said she would call me when he woke up. I would get all the way back up to my room, get into my bed, start to get comfortable, and bling, 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 my phone would go off, and Jackson would be awake, ready to eat again. So I would get out of bed. I mean, it was not easy. The second day, I spent the entire day down in the NICU with him. I couldn't stay away from him. I watched him sleep. I couldn't leave him for anything. And I mean, I went the entire day without any of the pain meds that they give you every 4 hours. I went all day without any pain meds, and by the time I got up to my room later that night, I was in so much pain, and I was sore and hurting, and it was just, it was really bad. But when I was with him, I didn't feel anything. He got out of the NICU a day before I got out of the hospital, so the day he got out, they wheeled him up to my room, and that was our first night together as a family, and we did pretty good, I think. I remember I slept with him in my arms right next to me, and I remember waking up next to him and seeing his face and having him in my arms was the greatest feeling I've ever had, and it's been the greatest feeling every morning ever since, to wake up and see his face and know that he's real. He's not just a dream. He's just perfect and real. We got to go home on the 18th, I believe it was, and everything's been great ever since then. You know, they slowly took out all the catheter, and they took out all the IVs, and I swear the worst part of labor and delivery and recovery, it's just having all those needles in me. Being in labor and worrying about what's in my back and what was in my arms and everything, it was so uncomfortable. That's the only bad part, is having so many things running through you. That sucks. It just feels so uncomfortable because you can't move. So, yeah, that's pretty much the story. Been home ever since. He's been to 2 doctor's appointments now. He went to his first one the day after we got out of the hospital, and then his second one was on Monday of this week, and today's Thursday, and that was his 2-week appointment, and he's 3 weeks old today, but doctor said he is perfect, and he's gained 1.5 pounds since the hospital, and he's 21 inches now, I believe, and he's just growing like crazy. He's strictly on breast milk. He was on a little bit of formula when he was in the NICU, just because I couldn't get down there, but now he is strictly breast milk, and he's doing very well. He has no problems with nipple confusion. He has no problems with hunger or eating. He's a very, very, very calm baby. He doesn't cry very often at all. He fusses when he wants something, which is just like a little and then, you know, you kind of stay ahead of any fussiness he's going to have. Are you cold, baby? His little lip is quivering. He's just a really happy, good, calm little baby, and I don't think we could be any more lucky. I think that's about it. I hope you enjoyed my labor and delivery story. It's sort of, it was the scariest, greatest day of my life. That's the only way I can explain it. And now having him, I don't even know how to explain being a mom and the joy that comes with it. There's nothing else in this world that compares, and I can only explain it as that there is not, I can't think of a time living without him. Like, I can't imagine how I ever lived without him. I don't know how I ever felt joy or ever felt any kind of happiness until he was in this world, because now I understand. I don't think you really understand until you hold your little one and you see how much he loves you, and he does. You can't deny it. He needs you. And that's it. So thank you guys for listening to my story, and I will try to keep you updated, and if you have any questions or anything, you can always message me. And that's it. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I will talk to you guys soon. Try not to wake this guy up. Alright guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.